You don't have to be a surgeon anymore to use a scalpel because KTM has finally given us a middleweight motorcycle, this KTM Duke 790. A lot of promise rides on this motorcycle because just like the 390 and the 200 and later the 250, which completely changed the game for performance motorcycling in India, this motorcycle has the potential to change the middleweight game. I am here at Bajaj Auto's Chakan test track to tell you if it lives up to its Scalpel name. When I saw this motorcycle from far, I thought it is the KTM Duke 390 with wider rubber. But as I came closer and my eyes went to the engine, I realized this is something bigger. And the upswept exhaust confirmed that yes, the 790 Duke actually has all the elements of a Duke. Which means right from the headlight to the tank as well as the swing arm, it screams the new KTM Duke design language. However, certain things will actually make you realize that this is a much bigger motorcycle. Like the tires, seat and the tail section, it also gets a very unique grab rail which we haven't seen on lesser KTM motorcycles yet. But what is similar to the KTM Duke 390 are these front forks. Yes, they are identical in size and they get no adjustment whatsoever. Even the rear suspension doesn't get any adjustment other than the fact that you can adjust the preload there. There is minimal bodywork on this motorcycle which helps to shed weight, and this is a very light motorcycle. In fact, it is among the lightest in the segment. Once astride the motorcycle, you will immediately realize that the seating position is quite comfortable. You sit upright, the pegs are rear set, and the handlebar is wide and comfortable. What will catch your eye though is the all-digital TFT screen, which unfortunately is smaller in size when compared to the Duke 390. However, the cluster is all new in terms of design, but misses out on KTM's My Ride function, which is there on the 390, although you can opt for that with the KTM Power Part. The levers are adjustable, both of them, and overall feel of this motorcycle gives you quite a bit of a premiumness. Switchgear is also similar to the 390 Duke. However, on the right side of the handlebar, you have only one switch, which is the engine kill switch that also doubles up as the engine starter. On the left, you have got multiple buttons so that you can browse through this screen to adjust the various modes that this motorcycle has to offer. The biggest USP of the Duke 790 has to be its engine. KTM has stepped out of the ordinary. Usually the Dukes are all about single cylinders, meanwhile the Super Duke gets a V-twin. This one actually uses a parallel twin motor. It's a 799cc engine which produces 105 horsepower and the torque output is 87 Newton meters. But forget the figures for a moment. It's really the lightweight which gives it absolutely ballistic power to weight ratio. In fact, this motorcycle's mid-range is really very juicy. It rushes to the red line and hits it around 10,000 RPM. So in terms of outright performance, this is brilliant. In fact, it takes just 3 seconds to go from 0 to 100 km per hour. The top speed is in excess of 230 km per hour, but mind you, there's a lot of wind blast that you have to contend with once you cross 130 km per hour because there's no wind protection on offer whatsoever. And talking about the modes, there are 4 of them on offer: Street, Rain, Sport and Track. Unfortunately, you cannot make any changes in the other 3 modes except track mode, but in track mode, you can make a lot of alterations. Naturally, in rain mode, the throttle is dulled down a bit, and of course, power is reduced too, just to make it that much more safer to ride this middleweight monster. And as much as a monster it is in the mid-range and screams all the way close to 10,000 RPM in the top end, Unfortunately, the bottom end is slightly weak. The bigger problem here is below 3000 RPM, there's just too much of jerkiness on offer, and on and off throttle transition isn't that great. This motorcycle feels the best in the mid-range, and that's where it really shines. It also sounds great, and the 6-speed gearbox is really smooth shifting. The clutch, although on the lighter side, you really don't have to use it because it gets a bi-directional quick shifter. The vibrations have been kept well out of bay thanks to the dual counterbalancers in this engine, but there's obviously some amount of vibrations which can be felt on the handlebar as well as the pegs when you go near the red line. This motorcycle will return you a fuel economy of around 20 kilometers per litre, and the fuel tank capacity is 14 litres, giving you not that much of a range on a full tank of fuel. The level of ease with which this motorcycle turns in is simply astounding. It feels really razor sharp, gives a lot of feel and feedback, and there's plenty of grip on offer from these wide tires. That really helps through the corners, and the suspension, its stiffness is very progressive. As you go harder on it, well, it gets stiffer and stiffer. So yes, the ride quality is on the stiffer side, but the balance and the feel and feedback from the handlebar is simply mind-boggling. In fact, KTM has also given it a steering damper which comes into play and makes sure that this motorcycle will always put a smile on your face when you go through a corner. Braking performance is also very nice. Yes, initial bite could have been slightly better, but overall stopping power is supreme on the KTM Duke 790. So while KTM has cut corners on the suspension aspect by not really giving it premium suspension system, it has put all that money into the electronics. It gets a slew of electronics including cornering ABS, cornering traction control, anti-wheelie and a supermoto mode so that you can turn off the rear ABS and go sliding all the way. The seat on this motorcycle is also very accommodating and comfortable both for the rider as well as the pillion, who also gets a massive grab rail to hold on to, which is needed considering the raw thrust on offer. Seems like the perfect machine, isn't it? The perfect middleweight motorcycle which will completely change the segment. Well, not quite. There are certain things which are to fault with this motorcycle, and yes, I am nitpicking here, but the placement of the pegs is such that sometimes your heel will actually touch the exhaust. Other than the fact that it's only available in 9 cities, doesn't really leverage KTM's massive sales and service network, although KTM promises it's going to expand it real soon. So yes, there's little to fault with this beautiful KTM Duke 790, a motorcycle whose engine will make you smile all day throughout. At a price of rupees 10 lakhs on road Mumbai, yes, it is on the expensive side when you compare it to its Japanese rivals, but when you compare it to its European rival, it does come across as value for money. The real highlight here is the Bajaj finance, which makes it quite affordable with a low interest rate as well. And that probably is the reason why the KTM Duke 790 is going to sell in real good numbers. The initial lot is limited to just 100 units, but KTM says they're going to bring in a lot more. A big thumbs up from a big KTM fan to KTM for this machine. We now await the 390 adventure. If you like this video, make sure to give it the thumbs up, that's the like button, and also subscribe to the MotorBeam channel.